So this video is for anyone who needs to set up their gradebook in Skyward using category weighting. A few things have changed, so we wanted to give you a video walking you through this. The first thing you need to do is get yourself logged into Skyward and on the grade sheet page for the class that you want to set up. And then you'll go over and click on the settings, and we want to be in grade calculation settings over here. So we're going to get into grade calculations. The first thing that I recommend is setting up semester 1. So you'll start by putting in that you are doing category weighting from this drop-down menu, and then it's going to ask you to put the weight percent of each of the categories that you're going to use. So I'm going to be doing this for my freshman English class here, the category weights. I want to make sure that my final exam is 15%, and then I'm going to look for homework and participation, quizzes, and summative assessments at 25, 25, and 35%. So you'll see me kind of go through that quickly. Try to do it in alphabetical order. Homework and participation is 25%. I'm going to go down to quiz. That is 25%. The summative assessments are 35%. And then down here, I need to click on exam, final exam, and it will give me the option then to put in my 15% here. Once you have the categories and their weights, and you need to make sure, obviously, that the weight adds up to 100%, you can click Save Changes, and now it is set up for semester 1, and I can copy this grade calculation setup to semester 2. So I'm going to click on that, run my process, and voila. So that takes care of the semesters. What it doesn't take care of are the quarters. So I need to actually go back to my grade sheet settings. I can see with these arrows here that I have added those calculations for my semesters, but I'm going to start with quarter 1. And here's where it gets tricky. So the first thing I want to do, again, is identify that I'm doing category weighting. I'm actually going to hit include twice here to exclude any categories that I don't use so that they don't show up in my drop-down menu. And then in my quarter 1, I will not have the option to put the final exam in there. That's by design. So I'm only going to be using in my quarter grades the homework and participation, the quiz, and the summative assessments. Now here's where it gets tricky, because I have to figure out the correct percentage to calculate for only those 3 categories, removing the 15% of my final exam. And in order to do that, I actually created a quick spreadsheet so you can figure out what those new percentages should be. So if you remember, my first category and second category were both 25%, and my third category was 35%. Now, because those 3 numbers don't add up to 100, I need the proportional percent that does add up to 100. So you can see it gives me 29.41 for those 2 categories that have 25%. So I'm going to put 29.41. Oh, that was the wrong one, actually. That was the summative assessment. That's a different number. I know these are 29.41 for quiz and homework. And then I cannot remember what the number was for summative, so I'm going to click back there. 41.18%. Okay. So now I proportionately have the percentages for those 3 categories, not including my final exam, and I'm going to hit Save Changes, and then it will accurately calculate quarter grades based on the proportion, the correct proportion with my categories. Now, I don't want to have to do that over and over again, so I'm going to copy that grade calculation setup and ask it to make it the same for quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4. I'm going to run that process, and voila, my grade book should be set up now to calculate all of those things correctly. The last thing that you may want to do, you don't really have to do this. If you wanted your final exam to be category weighting, it really isn't necessary because it's presuming that your final exam is just going to be add up to 100 points or something like that. But that's going to show up by default, and it's going to be 15% of that semester grade, whatever you end up putting into that bucket. But you will only have that bucket show up in its column, its final exam column. So you'll be able to put your final exam assignment into that bucket. So that's it. And then obviously if you have percentages the same for all of your classes, you can copy the settings for an entire class once you have all of that set up, or you can go in and do it manually for other classes that might have different percentages. If you have any trouble with this, let me know. The email where I'm sharing this video, I will also link a download of that spreadsheet so that you can figure out the correct percentages to put into the quarter 1, 2, 3, and 4 buckets. Thanks.